Hey everybody, I just want to thank you so much for that awesome feedback that you sent in about that last Hitch video. Well, the awesome news is we're going to hit part 2 right now, and specifically we're going to take that same video, but I'm going to tie in the same points to the typical sales process and how you can see not only what people are doing wrong and what they've been trained to do, and how to absolutely do it the right way to generate massive attraction, high value, and easy sales. So let's get started.
Hi. I noticed your glass was getting a little low, so I took the liberty of bringing you another apple martini.
How many times have you seen this? It's totally old and tired. The salesperson approaches their target as overly sweet, overly nice, and absolutely artificial. Well, their target, immediately their BS detector goes up. They get into their judo stance, and what's worse is what most people don't realize is the salesperson is surrendering their power. They're basically putting their target on a pedestal, hoping that their target reciprocates back to them. And in turn, really what happens is they surrender all their power to them, and they're in a beta position. And they have really nowhere to go.
Thank you.
This is where body language plays a huge factor. This is where your inner beliefs and what you're trying to do have a physical manifestation. In this scene, one of the things we see here is that he's leaning in because he wants to engage her. And in sales, a lot of times we'll come up close and make strong eye contact and shake hands. But in this scene, you can see Eva Mendez's character actually leans back. She's actually detaching herself and pulling away. And there becomes a major imbalance. And what happens is it's her showing that she's in control and he's not. Now, for most salespeople, they're taught to make eye contact, they're taught to shake hands, but realistically, you want to watch what the other person is doing. If they're disengaging, the only thing you're doing is handing them more power, and you're really lowering your value.
And I couldn't help but notice you look a lot like my next girlfriend.
What's your name?
They call me Chip.
You can't get him to stop?
That was funny.
In the community, we know that attractive women are constantly bombarded by guys hitting on them. So as a time management exercise, in order to assess whether or not the man has value, they give out shit tests. And if you fail the test, you end up having your value decimated. Now in sales, it may not happen that often, but when somebody either denigrates your industry or you as being a part of it, it's basically the same thing. It's a shit test. And how you respond to it is very key. Now in this scene, you could see this guy has nothing to say and he absolutely fails. And we're going to see what her response to that failed test is.
Listen, Chip, I understand the courage it takes to walk across a room and try to generate a relationship out of thin air, so don't take the following personally.
You have fantastic eyes.
Alright, at this point, I'm starting to feel bad for this guy. I mean, like us, we were all trained by well-meaning salespeople that you have to establish rapport with somebody. You have to build their rapport. But in this instance, we can see the fallacy and the myth of that. This guy, after basically trying to overcome unsuccessfully a couple objections, he goes into trying to build rapport. But as you can see here, he's the only one interested in building rapport. Eva Mendez's character does not want to build rapport at all. So it becomes a very one-sided process.
Thanks. Try to listen. But this is no reflection on you. I'm just not interested. But thank you for the compliment of coming over.
You're welcome.
Now this is the perfect example of a myth in sales. I've been taught before, like many of you, that you have to make multiple contacts. You have to overcome X amount of objections before the person's going to buy. But in this case, you can see here that she is clearly not interested. And yet, what does he do? He continues to try to artificially compliment her and be overly sweet and overly nice. But there's no value for her. She's not interested. And unfortunately, the only thing that she can do is be a lot more direct about her rejection.
So do you like Cuban food?
Chip, seriously, that was not code for I wish you'd try harder.
Are you always so shut down and afraid
with the right man might make you
Feel like a natural woman? Sorry I'm late, honey. I couldn't get a cab. How was the meeting?
Oh, well, there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. Nice to meet you, Chip.
You too. All right, right here you can see an absolute disparity between somebody of high value and somebody of low value. I mean, just look at their faces and demeanor.
Now, on the one hand, it is very difficult for a man to even speak to someone that looks like you. But on the other hand, should that be your problem?
So life's kind of hard all around.
If you notice, the first thing he does here is he actively separates himself from all the losers out there, the guys that don't know what they're doing, the hacks. In other words, the group of people that are all fighting for market share, people of tremendously high value, the people that everybody seeks out, that everybody wants to do business with, know they're not part of the riffraff. And in this instance, it's the first thing that he says, because he wants her to know that this conversation is going to be different. And in sales, if you're not starting off the conversation by separating yourself from everybody else right off the bat, they're going to go into autopilot mode and really not listen to anything you're saying.
I mean, you're sending all the right signals. No earrings, heels under 2 inches, your hair is pulled back, you're wearing reading glasses with no book, drinking a Grey Goose martini, which means you had a hell of a week and a beer just wouldn't do it.
Did you catch that? Did you notice his body language and tone of voice? The complete opposite of the other guy. When he sits down, he actually leans back. And what that communicates is, number one, he's an equal with her. So he's not intimidated by her, and he's not looking to get something from her. He has no ulterior motives. And his tone of voice was totally different as well. It was very relaxed, very slow, and very deliberate. It indicated that he wasn't in a hurry. It indicates that he wasn't out to get something. He did not have an agenda or an outcome in mind. In sales, that's huge, because when you talk to somebody, your body language and your vocal tone are going to tell them everything they need to know about you. If your body language is pushing toward them, that's actually aggressive, and it's going to make them want to reciprocate back, and that's going to make them pull away. And with the vocal tone, the more relaxed you are, the more they're going to understand that you're not a threat to them. Whereas a lot of people make the mistake of being very excited and having high energy, but again, people are oppositional. That's just going to make them withdraw out of the conversation. Right here is what separates people using community tactics versus people using traditional sales tactics. Right here, she gave an indicator of interest, which was a tacit approval for him to continue. Whereas most sales trainers are just going to go through their same process, run head on to an objection, and have to overcome them. When you use community tactics, you will not have to have an objection, because you're going to get consistent invitations to proceed.
Because who's going to believe that there's a man out there that could sit down beside a woman he doesn't know and genuinely be interested in who she is, what she does, without his own agenda?
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what that would look like.
This is a massive DHV, or a display of higher value. You see, he jumped over to her side and empathized with the problem that she had, which was the typical men who have no idea what they're doing. And in a sales context, this is incredibly powerful. And when you can actually talk to your prospect and explain to them why every single pushy and obnoxious salesperson that they hate dealing with, why they're doing it, why they're a problem, they're instantly going to identify you as being on their side. It's going to build up tremendous value, and they're going to subconsciously stop treating you as a salesperson and with all the negative perks that go along with it, and start treating you as a trusted friend.
So what would a guy like that say?
Well, he'd say, my name is Alex Hitchens, and I'm a consultant.
Stop.
But she wouldn't be interested in that, because she'd probably be just counting the seconds until he left.
Thinking he was like every other guy.
Notice the extra test here? You see, he's already given tremendously high value, and she's seen that. But the higher the value, whether it's in the community or in sales, the more somebody needs to be certain that it's absolutely true and genuine. And so she gives him this test, and he passes with flying colors, as we'll see right now.
Which life experiences taught her is a virtual certainty. But then he'd ask her name and what she did for a living, and she might blow him off. Or she might say,
up to this point, he's shown tremendously high value over and over, and she's responded by testing him, tests that he's passed each time. Now, mainstream sales training is going to tell you that it's time for you to qualify your prospect. But the problem is that your prospect sees it coming, and they're going to subconsciously treat you like you're any customer. They're going to give you resistance, and they're going to really kind of put you at arm's length. But in the community, we teach people to disqualify your customer, that it's time for you to show yourself different and even a higher value than what they're at, and for them to justify it. And the fastest way to assess that they're on the same page with you and that they see you not only as an equal, but as somebody who very well might be higher value than them, is you're looking for compliance. And we're going to see it right now.
I'm Sarah Milas. I run the gossip column at The Standard. And then he'd ask all these penetrating questions about it because he was sincerely, if atypically, interested.
Now he's elevated his value again by giving a subtle disqualification. And of course her response is to test him, to see if it's legitimate and to see if it's genuine. In a sales environment, it's the same thing.
no.
No.
He'd be interested. But he'd see that there was no way he could possibly make her realize that he was for real.
Well, he could be funny and charming and refreshingly original.
Wouldn't help.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
Not really. They'd both probably go on to lead the lives they were headed toward, and my guess is they'd do just fine. It's a pleasure to have met you, Sarah Milas.
Okay, this is awesome. Right here, he does the most powerful and yet the simplest thing. He walks away. In the community, we call it the art of the walk away. And what it means is all of the things that you've done to display higher value, you've passed all the tests. Right here, you absolutely lock them down and you prove them by walking away. It shows you're totally unneedy, massively high value, and it ends up putting a look on her face that we in the community call the doggy dinner bowl eyes. She's never seen anything like that before. She doesn't even know how to process it. Now in sales, it's identical. Most customers are so used to people relentlessly pursuing a sales pitch that they have to figure out a way to get out. And it completely creates a dimension and a dynamic that just makes them hate you, honestly. In sales, it's the same thing. After multiple displays of value, you have to lock it down and prove it. And by walking away, you demonstrate that high value. You're different from anybody else. They're going to end up pursuing you, and they're going to have the same doggy dinner bowl eyes. But you won't see it because you're walking away.